then, as these conditions and circumstances rise up, together with our karmic imprints, come together and manifest these personas that we play out in these 6 human realms, we call this. So the 6 human realms are the 3 lower realms and the 3 higher realms. So the 3 lower realms are the hell realm at the very bottom, the hungry ghost realm, and then the animal realm. So if we look at it in a circle, we would see in the center bottom would be the hell realm, one side would be the hungry ghost realm, and the other side would be the animal realm. On the 3 higher realms would be the other end of that semicircle, would be at the very top would be the God realm, and then on one side would be the jealous God realm, and on the other side would be the human realm. So I'm going to show some pictures in a minute, but I want to be able to give you this idea of what this is before we go to the pictures. And these ideas were discussed many, 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 many centuries ago. And then in order to be able to teach this to ordinary people, in Japan, they came up with this idea of these visualizations of how to portray this. Because, you know, whether it was in Japan or whether it was in India or any other part of the world where Buddhism was being taught, the monks, the lamas, many of them would be traveling. Most of them were traveling from village to village. In some cases, you know, they would stay in their monasteries or their home places and people would come visit them. But by and large, they were traveling to these different villages. And most of the people that they encountered were illiterate. They couldn't read or write. However, that didn't mean that they weren't intelligent and they couldn't comprehend, you know, very, very profound ideas, subtle ideas and so on. So to help stabilize that in these people's minds, they resorted to illustrations, to these paintings, you know, these Tanka paintings like I've got around in my room here are these Tanka paintings. And each one is like a story. Each one is like a book and it has different, you know, aspects to it. And they all tell this narrative of who the particular deity that is represented as the main part of this, of the painting and so on. So these 6 realms of samsara, the 6 realms of human existence, were portrayed in this illustrative way and became adopted in the rest of the Buddha nations, the different places. So it began in Japan, but then was picked up and used in other places along with this. So I'm going to show you a picture here, and they're pictures that I had sent you before that you should have got. So here is, this is a picture of the wheel of existence is what this is called. And here are the 6 segments. Can you see this? And you can see my cursor moving around. So I don't know if I can make this bigger. Oh yeah, okay, good. All right, so here are the 6 realms. So here is the God realm here at the top. Here is the jealous God realm here. Here is the human realm here. These are the 3 higher realms. Then the 3 lower realms are here. Here at the bottom is the hell realm. And then over here is the hungry ghost realm. And over here is the animal realm. And all of this is in the grips of, let me see if I can go back now. How do I shrink this? Oh, how about that? I can pinch and on my touchpad here. I never tried to do that. Okay, so you see that this wheel of existence, this human existence, is in the clutches of this demon. And this demon is called a Mara. That's what the Sanskrit word is, a Mara. And what it represents is our attachments, our aversions, our hatred. This is the demons within ourselves. And we are being controlled by our own demons. So this is what this is representing here. So if anybody has questions as I'm talking about this, please don't hesitate to speak right up and talk about this. Ask your questions. Excuse me. So in the center of the wheel, in the hub right here, are three animals. It is a rooster, a snake, and a pig. Let me see, I got another picture here that may be a little bit of a better image for this. Let me see if I can get to that.
Why don't you just blow it up?
Well, I want to get to, so here's a little clearer. Okay. Okay, so here it's a little clearer for you to see. Here is the snake, the pig, or boar, and the rooster. And this is the hub of the wheel. So this is, everything is turning around this hub, and this hub represents the three poisons. The three poisons. So the pig represents ignorance, and the rooster represents hatred, or rather desire, desire and attachment, the rooster. And the snake represents hatred or aggression. And you can see that each one of these animals has the tail of the one in front in their mouth. And so this cycle of ignorance, of desire, and of hatred is the center part of this wheel, the hub that everything revolves around. So being able to understand this is fundamental, and being able to understand our role as being a human being. Now, this outer ring of the hub, then, let me see if I got a better picture of that. Yep, this picture here. So now this outer ring, this ring here, you see that the white element and then the black element. So what this is indicating is that there are some beings who are ascending from the lower depths of being a human being up to becoming a God being, if you will. And here are beings on this side, the dark side, are being pulled down are descending into the lower realms. So this is showing our dualistic nature, this ever-present dualism that we are prone to. So what this, let me see here. So what this whole experience is talking about is the human experience. We call this the psychophysical drama of being a human being. So whether these realms are real or not is secondary to just the observation that it's real within us, that this is our psychophysical drama that we each go through. There may be times in our lives when we think that we are like a god. There may be times in our life when we may think that we are like in a hell. There may be times in our lives when we think that we're behaving like an animal. or that we are so miserable like a hungry ghost, or that we are a very balanced and serene person who is a human being and very grateful for being a human being. So during our life, we go through these different periods at different times. And at any particular time, we may be 5% of this and 20% of that and 40% of this and 60% of that, or whatever the numbers are, you know, just to be able to show that there is this balance that we manifest for ourselves, but it's in a state of flux. As we are growing in our lifetime, those things change. So I remember when I was in the Army, and to me, it was 90% hell. It was terrible. I hated it. It was terrible. But then there were other times when I felt like, my goodness, everything is so serene and so lovely. I felt like, I feel like I'm a god, compared to other people on the planet. They may regard people like us living here as being gods, but they're living, these terrible existences as a hungry ghost, miserable as a hungry ghost in these impoverished lands where they don't get enough to eat, they don't have enough resources to be able to have proper homes and clothing and so on like that. So they may regard themselves as being as a hungry ghost in a miserable existence like that. But there are times that we go through all these things. Okay, anybody got any questions so far? Okay, so then what we're going to do, we're going to zero in into explaining each of these sections here. So we begin to put this into our puzzle bank and be able to see that. So this becomes the result of, as I said, our karma. This is the way our karma is played out in these 6 realms, in this psychophysical drama that we are all taking a role in, that we're playing these roles. So in the hell realms, let's see here. Here are the hell realms here depicted in this particular painting here. So you see that there are all these terrible things. There's lots of fire, and there's cold and miserable cold and so on. And these beings are going through terrible deaths over and over and over again. They may be drinking molten metal and drinking this, taking it in. It immediately kills them, and then immediately they are revived, only to have to drink that over again, and over and over and over again for what we would call years or lifetimes or eons. This is their life. This is what they go through. There's nothing else that they know. It's just this intense suffering that is the result of their hatred. The reason why they are here is because of the hatred, the killing that they did. They might have killed their mother, they might have killed their father, they might have killed other human beings, they might have killed animals, they might have done terrible things that were killing beings. So they are relegated to this life now of this intense suffering. So there are these 8 hot hells, they say. So how literal this is, you can take it for what it's worth. You can study this, and in the Jewel Ornamental Liberation, it goes through a fair amount of detail, breaking this down and so on. And again, whether this is a literal place, or it is a figurative place, for us, we need to think of it as the psychophysical drama for ourselves in this lifetime. So these 8 hot hells and going through these terrible things. So they might be stabbing themselves, they might be shooting themselves, they might be drinking this hot molten stuff. We might be getting cooked in pots, and so on. Terrible, terrible deaths by fire. But then in the cold hells, they may be between these glaciers that are grinding together, and we're caught between these two glaciers, left outside and dying, you know, just on the snow and freezing rain and so on, cold hells like that, for the terrible things that the beings would have done in a lifetime to be able to precipitate, you know, their being in this kind of a cold hell. So you can let your imaginations run wild about what these possibilities are. And so these are the 8 cold hells, and they're being revived over and over again too. So those are 16 hells. And then there are the occasional hell, where there are these indefinite locations. And then there's this neighboring hell that surrounds the hot hells. So this occasional hell and this neighboring hell are hells that we would go to that would imply that they're temporary. They're not as intense as being in these hot hells or these cold hells, but yet these people are bound in these hells, suffering terribly by not knowing that they're, or not realizing, or not being able to experience anything else beyond these terrible hells that they're in, these neighboring hells or these occasional hells. If you've had any kind of a Christian or a Catholic background, maybe you're familiar with the purgatories and so on, and they would talk about that. And it's, you know, very, you know, a lot of similarity between all these different theological systems, through these different religious systems and so on. So these hells are the result of great hatred that we have practiced, or the beings have practiced during their lifetime. Then the next one is the hungry ghost realm. So that would be this over here. And here are these beings. Maybe in this picture it may be difficult to see, but these beings in the hungry ghost realm have very big rotund bodies, very round bodies, and very short little legs, and very short little arms, and very long necks, and very, very small mouths. And these people are relegated to misery because of their greediness, of their miserliness. They can never eat enough or drink enough to satisfy their thirst or hunger. They are totally miserable beings because they're insatiable. And maybe at one time or another, you felt like that, or you know somebody like that who has been that kind of, had that kind of misery, that nothing ever satisfies them. So they're portrayed in this way. So these are called anguished spirits, and they have the obscurations of eating and drinking, that, you know, this insatiability is the way they are characterized. And they are the result of greediness. You know, so these might be beings who during their lifetime amassed fortunes of money or power, and they refuse to share it with other beings. And because of that, those beings suffered greatly. So now in this lifetime, when they are relegated now to this hungry ghost realm, where there is this constant suffering of insatiability of these hungry ghosts. So they are the result of greediness. And then the other lower realm over here is the animal realm. So this is the realm of ignorance. The animals, you know, may appear to have, you know, a very nice serene life, and it's a very beautiful place and so on. But meanwhile, they have no ability to be able to control anything. They have no ability to be able to really understand themselves or other beings. All they live for is eating and procreating is basically all they live for, you know, and they have some emotions. You know, we've seen in the animal world where animals, you know, take care of their offspring and so on, and they have many things that we would call, you know, similar to being human emotions, and maybe there's love and there's compassion and so on, but they don't display any kind of real joy or like that. There can be a sense of equanimity. You know, I like to watch the birds in my yard, and I see that the sparrows, they get along with everybody. They're really sweet animals. They really are. Um, but, you know, to imprint on them that they have any degree of bodhicitta, you know, might be a false assumption. These beings, these animals are here because of ignorance that of what they were doing, of what beings were during a human life, that they're relegated to this animalistic experience here. These animals are always being preyed upon. They're always being eaten by other stronger animals, and these animals are eating other weaker animals. So there's this constant, you know, flux of who's eating who is seeking who, and so on. So this ignorance comes from just not being able to recognize who you are, what you have around you, what abilities you have, being able to develop yourself, leading a lazy, slothful kind of a life that is unproductive, that is unthoughtful, that is not thoughtful, and so on. So this torpor, you know, of a life like someone who is in torpor results in being reborn in an animal realm. And you may be yourself at some time or another thought that you were leading this animalistic life where you know people like that. And again, I got to use myself as an example. When I was a teenager, you know, there wasn't much that I was thinking about that wasn't too far removed from animalistic, you know, behavior. You know, I'm looking at the next meal I was going to have, you know, and I was fortunate enough to be able to go to nice places and so on. But I was also very animalistic and thinking about, you know, my teenage sexual desires and things like that. And I wasn't thinking about too many other things, you know, and being able to push aside other people, you know, for my own gain, you know, that, you know, these are things that are very animalistic and so on. If you can push somebody around so that you can get what you want, that's what you would do. You know, the strongest animals would be able to dominate, you know. But likewise, you know what it is to be pushed around by a stronger animal than you and so on. So you can recognize that too. So these animal realms, so in this animal realm, there's the suffering of being used, enslavement, because human beings can come along and humans now can enslave these animals, can put rings through their noses, can put bridles on their mouths, can put saddles on their backs, can put yokes around their neck and tie, you know, the wagons to them and so on, and they become beasts of burden. They can use them for plowing the ground and all the things that you've seen at one time or another that animals have been used for as slaves to do the work, the heavy work for the benefit of human beings. We also, human beings, also slaughter these animals. We use them for food. They become a food source for us. And, you know, we can talk about this, you know, we can talk about that we are animals, human beings are animals, and we have all the conditions that are necessary to become carnivores. You know, we have the proper teeth for it, we have the proper digestion for it, we have, you know, a proclivity to do it in the first place. We enjoy, you know, the animal meats and so on. So, we can talk about, the morality of it at another time, but we would slaughter these animals, and of course other animals are eating these animals as well. And then, so there's the suffering of being eaten by one another and whatever falls into their mouth. So animals are also the fish in the sea. And the fish in the sea, they have no awareness of what they're doing, and they see something kind of floating in front of them, and they open up their mouth wide, and they bring that food in, and they don't know what it is, and so there's all there's this gross ignorance is what this is portraying. There's insects that are animals also. They are part of the animal realm. And the way in which they live. They can show some great traits of organization and so on. When you look at ants or you look at bees and certain animals and the way they colonize and the way that they support each other, there is some very elegant beauty in what they do. But at the same time, they're ignorant of all things around them and so on, and they're very easily enslaved or stolen from. The honey from the bees is very easily taken away and so on like that. So the animal realm is the third of the three lower realms. So we, of course, as human beings, the thing that we would least want to be born as is any of these three lower realms. So once we engage in the practices of Mahayana, practices of bodhicitta, practices of karma, of recognizing karma, of developing ourselves as a transcendent human being, we're like closing the door to being reborn into the lower realms. We're protecting ourselves from being able to do that as long as we maintain our morality, as long as we maintain our virtue, from not falling into the hatred, we're not falling into the the ignorance or the desire, the attachments of the greediness of the hungry ghost. We're not falling into that.
Excuse me, Lance?
Yes.
Question. I can't see all the animals that are in that section, but what I do see, it looks like they're all peaceful animals. Is that correct?
Yes, and animals mostly are peaceful. That's right.
Designated there, I don't see lions or tigers or...
Well, they're peaceful. There are times when they get very, when they're threatened, they become very wrathful, or when they are going out for food, but they don't go and they don't hunt and collect food and put it in the refrigerator or the freezer so that they can enjoy it for the next month or something like that. They only hunt when they need to. They only get angry when they have to protect their young, their pride. That's the only time they get. Otherwise, they're very peaceful.
Okay, so you're saying all the animals are very peaceful, or is that just a certain segment of the animals?
No, I think that all animals, in their normal state, they just want to be peaceful. They just want to be happy. They don't go around just killing just for the sake of killing. Would you agree with that?
Okay, yeah.
No.
Do you agree with that?
I do. William said no.
William, you don't think so?
No, there's some animals that like we've got cats. We've had cats that go around chasing birds and catching birds and killing birds just to be. They're not hungry. They're not eating them.
It's their nature.
Well, that's yeah. Well, like a cat goes around and looks for mice and so on. They don't eat the mice. They just like ripping them open and that's it. Or birds. They don't really eat the birds very much. They just like to, kill them. So it is true. I understand that point, and that's part of the ignorance of being an animal.
Okay, thank you.
So to what extreme you want to take, that thought, whether they go around doing this all the time, but they have their peaceful moments too. I guess maybe that's what I should say. And many of these animals like cats and dogs and so on, we can domesticate, and we can keep them in our homes and we can train them to use the litter box and to use the paper and to bark when they need to go outside and so on like that. But then if you go away for 2 weeks on a vacation and you leave them by themselves and you come back and you got to find out, you got to retrain your cats and dogs all over again because they have reverted back to their animalistic ways of crapping all over the place and having no regard for what you trained them to use the litter box and so on. Is that true? I see you rattling your heads there a little bit.
Probably true, but we would never leave them untended.
Well, but you get my point.
Yes, I do.
And it needs to be constantly reinforced. And soon as you turn your back, they revert back to their animalistic ways. And that's their natural state. We're animals like that too. I mean, we come from that kind of stock, and so we have to be careful about that. And many people act like animals, barbarians, people who have done terrible things to other nations, other people throughout history, and even in this life in this 21st century as we know it, people behave like animals, like barbarians and so on. So we've seen that portrayed many times, and by the gift of our good karma, we were born in a land where we didn't have to suffer that kind of life or lifestyle or whatever. But there's other people living in other parts of the world who that was their life. That is their life. Okay. So then we go, let me see here. We have another picture, I think. Here we are now. Here are the 3 higher realms. So I'm going to come to the human realm last. So first I'm going to go to the God realm, which is up here at the top. So the God realm is, as you would expect, very, very, very pleasurable. They have all the leisure, all the pleasures that one could imagine, that they are so serene and they are adored by their followers, by their devotees and so on. And they make sure that their gods have everything that they need. Now, when I say this, I'm not necessarily talking about the supreme being kind of a God, that we talk about in monotheistic traditions. I'm talking more in terms of, these what do you call them? Pantheonic, I don't know if I'm saying it properly. The pantheons of all these gods, the gods of rain and thunder and lightning and, the gods of what we might remember as being in Egypt or in being in Greece or being in Rome and so on like that. These kinds of many, many gods, and they are adored by their followers, and they're praying to these gods to bring them rain, to bring them good fortune, to bring them good crops, to bring them money, to bring them children, to bring them all these good things that they want from these gods and so on. These gods got to be gods, got to be reborn as gods through their pridefulness. Their pridefulness. They worked hard to be able to develop a manifestation of wisdom, that they understand how things do work. They understand, this phenomenal nature from a let's say, a mechanical kind of a background, from an elemental kind of a background, how these things work and so on. And the fault that they have is that they have no compassion. That although they're being besieged by these beings, oh, bring the rain, oh, bring me money, oh, bring me children, all these things, they don't pay attention to these supplications. And these people are suffering because their prayers are not being answered from these gods. So they have these serene lives, they have all these pleasures, but yet they're very, very, very selfish. They're very caught up in their own pleasures, and they have no compassion. They're not paying attention to any other beings. They can go through sufferings of being dissatisfied with their pleasures, because sometimes, we look at the different civilizations and the different cultures that mankind has gone through, and we can see that there's been periods where these gods fall out of favor. A conquering nation comes over, and then the gods of the suppressed people are replaced with the gods of the conqueror and so on. So those gods, what happens to those gods of the conquered nation? Well, now they get dissatisfied. They, or the people say, oh, the gods abandoned us because they were dissatisfied with their pleasures and they moved on. So these other nations came in and were able to take their place. We can say that they're unprepared for their death. And because they have been either, you want to say directly or maybe indirectly responsible for the death of many people, because people have been, caught up in war or caught up in situations of where you're dying or you're sick or something, and people are coming and supplicating the gods, or you're supplicating the gods to help you, save me from this death, save my children from this death that are going to war or something like that. And the gods did nothing to be able to help them. So these people died. So indirectly, in that way, because of their non-compassion, they had no way to be able to help these beings that they died. So they were indirectly responsible for their death. So when these gods, when they die themselves, they are relegated to the lower realms because they were indirectly responsible for these deaths. So they may be, if not in the hot hell realms or the cold realms, they may be in those neighboring realms, those neighboring hell realms, or the occasional hell realm for eons and eons and eons of time. So they may have all these pleasures, but these pleasures are temporary. Just like everything else in our life, it's temporary, but to them it seems like it's forever. They have these very, very long lifetimes.
Lance?
Yes, sir.
Are you talking about these guys? It sounds like these gods are like maybe the CEOs of businesses or something like that.
Well, maybe so, yes. And maybe the theologians, maybe the professors, maybe those that are in the great, colleges and universities and so on, the great philosophers, maybe them. Unable to or unwilling to engage to be able to help suffering beings. They know how to grow crops, but they are overpowered by now other people, other beings. So now we'll talk about the jealous gods, because the jealous gods now are these beings who have great skillful means. The gods had great wisdom, but no compassion, no method, no ability to be able to do things. The jealous gods have great ability to do things. They're great manipulators of beings. And they are the beings who can convince people to follow them and to give them support, to give them wealth, to give them their respect. And these might be like the politicians. These might be like the CEOs or something like that of great companies or something like that, you know. But these have no wisdom. These jealous gods have no wisdom, and they are doing this for their own self-aggrandizement. They are jealous gods. They are in constant conflict between themselves because they want what the other gods have, what the other jealous gods have. They say, oh, you've got 1 million people following you. I want those 1 million people. And that guy says, well, you've already got 5 million. He says, that's true. And I want your 1 million too. I want them all. And you see that, you know, in this play that we're in, that many people fall into that trap, that they're very, very, very jealous of others. They create these conflicts and they want what others have. The ultimate thing that the jealous gods want is they want to be adored like the gods. The gods are adored. The jealous gods may not be, but they want to be. They want to be like the gods. And if you look here in this picture here, you see that there's these gods here that are in these trees. The characteristic here is they're in these trees and they have these bows and arrows and so on. And they're shooting these bows and arrows at the gods. But the bows and arrows are not strong enough to be able to reach the gods. And the gods don't even realize that they're being sought after in this way. You know, they're oblivious to this. They're in their pleasure. But the jealous gods, they're in constant conflict between themselves, and they're trying to replace the gods. They're trying to slay the gods so they themselves can be gods. So they're in this constant conflict like that. They have great arrogance. They're great fighting. They're dissatisfied with their pleasures. They torment themselves. They disfigure, and they're in this constant conflict. They're not prepared for death, and they fall down into the lower realms because of the suffering that they create. When they die, they go into lower realms. And again, these beings, they may go into the hot hells or the cold hells. They, you know, what the danger or the misdeeds that they do are very, very dangerous and can cause great death by a great many people. So, so they may go into the deeper hells. So these are the demigods or the jealous gods. I usually like to refer to them as the Titans. The Titans. They're like, you know, these great beings, these great huge beings who are huge in the sense of being powerful, who are, as I said before, manipulative and convincing, and many people will follow them. And then we come to the human realm. So here is the human realm. So in the human realm, it's a land that is very, very nice, has everything that humans need, all very, very nice and so on. And the humans are going through the sufferings of desire. Yeah, so it was the hungry ghosts that were going through greediness. The human beings are going through the suffering of desire, attachment, that they want things. They want this life. They want this beautiful place to live. They want this beautiful house. They want this wonderful job. They want this wonderful family. They want these wonderful possessions. All these things, all this desire that humans want, that is what has manifested them to be human beings. They, yes.
Is it in the angry gods or the
The jealous gods?
jealous gods? Is that a Buddha sitting in there?
It is, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes.
Okay. Just
Okay, we're
questioning
going to
here.
come back to that.
Okay.
Very good observation. Okay, so let's continue on, and I promise you we're going to get back to that. So in the human realm, we are suffering. We talked about a few weeks ago, we talked about the 8 sufferings of a human being, the 4 sufferings of a sentient being, that we're born suffering, that we have birth, that we have sickness, that we have old age, and that we have death. So all sentient beings have those 4 sufferings. Human beings have those sufferings plus 4 other sufferings, which are being separated from loved ones, which are meeting with those who are not dear to us. In other words, being with those we don't like, not finding what we desire, not finding what it is that we want, not getting what we want. And then the 8th one is the pain of having to protect what it is that we have. So those 4 are unique human sufferings. Separation from loved ones, being with those that we don't like, not getting what we want, but then having to protect what it is that we have. Those are the 4 human sufferings, together with birth, old age, sickness, and death. So these human beings have the power to change. This is why we say that we have a precious human life. When we talked about the 4 thoughts that turn the mind to the Dharma, this is the thing that is unique about human beings in all these realms. Is, remember, this is the psychophysical drama of a human being. So to be in a human realm is to recognize that we can change, that we are the architects, that we caused our life to be what it is. And we caused our life to be like a hell, to have pride, to be like a jealous God, to be like a hungry ghost, to be in a hell realm, to be like an animal. We created that. We created this life, and we engineer this life. We continually maintain this life and so on. Human beings can do that. The other beings are caught up and unable to make those kinds of changes. The gods are oblivious to the suffering of others. The hungry ghosts are oblivious to their misery. The hell realm, the hell beings are oblivious to anything else other than death and being reborn, and death and being reborn. The animals are totally ignorant altogether, and the jealous gods are in total conflict all the time. That's all they know. That's all they know. So the human beings have the ability to have the leisures. Remember, we talked about the 8 leisures and the 10 endowments. A human being has that. So in our lifetime, we may have felt this ourselves. We may have recognized this suffering. We may have known other people. And maybe sometimes we knew somebody that was a really good person, and we say, you're really a good human being. And then I'm sure in all different cultures, they have a word for that. In the Jewish tradition, they would say, oh, he's such a mensch. A mensch, a mensch means a human being. That he's such a good human being. He would do things for other people, at the sacrifice of himself and so on, and people would love him and so on, like that. So being a human being is out of these 6 realms, this is what we want to be. This is what we want to be reborn as. This is what we should be grateful that we are born as, and that we recognize that we have these other propensities, these psychophysical drama of these other 6 realms, or these other 5 realms, but we need to be able to transcend them. We need to be able to rise above them. We need to recognize what it is that manifested those individual realms, what poison manifested those realms, and what it is that overcomes that, what it is that is the antidote to those poisons. Okay, everybody with me? Any questions so far? Okay. So having these illustrations, you see how great this is, because imagine, someone coming and talking to you about this and not having the benefit of these illustrations. It becomes a much more difficult uh, understanding to be able to grasp all this. So back here, I wanted to go back here. So here we are in these 6 realms, and then we're in the grasp of this demon, which represents all these demons within ourselves, all these emotions that we have, all these mental wisdom obscurations that we have, all the habitual tendencies that we have from prior lifetimes, from prior life. And maybe that prior lifetime was 2 weeks ago, or maybe it was 6 years ago, or maybe it was 6 lifetimes ago. But, whether it is a literal lifetime, where we can say, oh, yes, Lance was born, back in 1850, and he was, living in India at the time, and he was, one of the untouchables or something like that, but he was able to be reborn as he is now or something. But meanwhile, I have the imprints of being born as an untouchable 200 years ago or so, and I still have that with me as my karma and as my habitual tendencies and as my mental obscurations, as my wisdom obscurations. So there's still remnants that are there and so on. So whether it's that literal, or it is just that it is more like a collective, that there is this collective consciousness that we are all part of. And because of certain propensities, that when conditions arise, there's things that come together that manifest as our thoughts, which becomes our causes for actions. We take the actions, which is the karma, and then we have the results to those things, and we wind up in these realms. So those thoughts, those causes, those past lives and so on, are characterized by the demons. You can also say that our good behavior, our good deeds, are the result of angels or some benevolent beings that are there also. So you could say that, I could understand how we could approach it that way. But all that gives way. We see that all those things change over time, and that we have these fears, and we have these desires and so on that we've been talking about that finally win out if we're not able to sustain our lives as an enlightened being, to be able to rise from the suffering of samsara into the nirvana of blissfulness beyond that. So how do we do that? How do we get out of these realms? What is it that allows us to get out of the hell realm? What is it that allows us to get out of the hungry ghost realm and so on? So this was the question that William was asking. So in each of these realms, all right, let's go back here. In each of these realms, there is a Buddha. Here is a Buddha here. Here is a Buddha here. This is the Buddha in the God realm. This is the Buddha in the human realm. This is the Buddha in the demigod realm, or the jealous God realm. Here is the Buddha in the hungry ghost realm. Here is the Buddha in the animal realm. And here is the Buddha, that's a wrathful Buddha, but here is the Buddha in the hell realm. So there are these 6 Buddhas that are in these realms. So now, to help us to escape, or not to escape, but to be able to liberate ourselves. Come on. Sorry, I got myself. can't change the picture. Ah, sorry. I got this thing sized in such a way that it won't let me get, oh, maybe this. No, that wasn't it. Let's see now. Previous, there we go. That's what I wanted.
Hey, Lance, I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
In the lower realms, I guess specifically, how can somebody liberate themselves without knowledge of kind of the upper realms?
Okay, well, I'm about to explain that. Okay, that's what I'm going to explain right now.
Okay.
All right, so let's take the hell realm. So in the hell realm, I pointed out that there is a Buddha in the hell realm. So the suffering of the hell beings is that they are having this terrible death befall them over and over again. They're revived over and over again. And that's all they know. There is no time for anything else but their suffering. They're completely locked into this suffering for what seems to be eternity, for whatever that might mean. However, there is this Buddha that is in the hell realm for these beings. And this Buddha here in the lower right-hand side here, this lower right-hand, as we look at this picture, can you see where I'm pointing? He's got a blue body, and so he's got a name. What he's holding, in his right hand, he's holding a flame. And his left hand, he's holding a block of ice, or he's holding a container of ice. So what he is doing, he is offering to those hell beings who are in the hot hells, he's offering them the ice. For those that are in the cold hells, he's offering them the flame. So that if they will accept that, for a moment, they will be liberated from their suffering, enabling them to recognize that there is a Buddha, that there is a way out, that there is something that caused them to have their suffering, but that there is a way for them to liberate themselves. And the Buddha represents that liberation, represents that compassion, represents that skillful means to be able to help those beings in the hell realms to do that. So if you think about those beings who are suffering in terrible places, that are in war zones, and people that might be, I always use the example, might be living in downtown someplace in drug wars and so on like that. These people know, they're locked up and they don't know whether they're going to live the rest of the day. They don't know whether a cop is going to come and kill them. They're living in hells. But if they can accept for a moment the hand that is being offered to them through their ministers and through their brothers and sisters and through their holy people, and they accept that, then immediately they can change their lives. So the same as this, so that's symbolic of what happens in the hell realms. That Buddha offers that moment of peacefulness from their suffering. So then we go to the hungry ghost realm. So the hungry ghost realm, the beings there are suffering from thirst and hunger, that they are totally miserable in their insatiability. They want something to eat, they want something to drink. And that's all they know, is their insatiability. So the Buddha there, in one hand, has a vessel, has a flask, a pitcher of water. And in the other hand, he's got a casket, or a box of food. And he's offering to these people something to eat and something to drink. so that for a moment they can rise above their suffering. They can be satisfied for a moment to be able to recognize that they have caused their own suffering and that they can liberate themselves from their suffering through the intervention of the spiritual master, of the Buddha. So this is representative of the hungry ghost. In the animal realm,
If somebody is continually in that cycle, what would be different that they would accept it this time but not previous times?
I don't have a good answer for that. You know, we all have choices, and we have choices as children, as teenagers, as young adults, and so on. Why is it that some people make choices that are very wise choices when they're 8 years old, and some people don't make those choices till they're 30 or 40 years old? It's the same choice. So I guess you could say it all comes down to karma and the conditions that are ripe for that karma to be able to sprout and be able to begin to grow and so on. It's very, there's many things that are involved there, but it's there for each one of us to be able to liberate ourselves. We can't worry about other beings. We can't change other beings. What we're looking at is our own psychophysical drama. That's the only thing that we can control. When we learn how to do it with ourselves, then we can learn some techniques that maybe we can help some other beings to do. But sometimes it's a trial and error. What works for one being may not work for another being. So part of it is having the diligence of the mind training to be able to help beings to develop this, for you to develop the wisdom and skillful means for you to help them, and then for them to be able to recognize that. So it's a very dynamic condition. But as I said, the first thing has to begin with ourselves. So I don't have a great answer except that one. What we're doing is we're putting all these pieces together. You see, we're identifying all these individual pieces, and they may seem to be disparate right now. But as we move along in our understanding of the Buddha's philosophy, we begin to see more and more of these things coming together and becoming interactive with each other. And the wisdom develops and the skillful means develops over the time that we're studying the Dharma teachings. So right now, what may seem to be an unanswerable question, later on becomes, oh, now I see how that comes together.
Yeah, no, I see how if you view it as this is all internal, what spark might change, But I guess if you view it as these realms are more literal and external, then if somebody's continually in that cycle and they, and what it seems that's, what would break them out?
Well, what would break you out?
Well, but you could say if I had the capacity to be broken out, it would have happened.
Well, what are you doing now?
Well, now we're learning about it, and that's more like the internal understanding.
Well, that's how it happens. That's how it happens with them too. They're the same as you, and you're the same as them. We're all the same. That's why we look at it within ourselves first. And then we express it by helping others. Okay, let's continue on. It's an excellent question, and it's a question that over time you will answer yourself. You will see how it comes together. You know, you will see how it is that you are here, how it is that you have broken out, because as you said, you're here to learn, but maybe 5 years ago, you never would have taken this kind of a step. What was it that brought you to this from 5 years ago? Or any of us for that matter. So there's that, you know, we talked about the last week or two, we talked about the three faiths. We talked about the yearning faith, that a killer who is a terrible killer goes around killing people just as soon as he sees them. But meanwhile, he comes home and he's got a cat that lives in the house and he takes care of that cat. Or he's got a child and he takes care of that cat or that child. But meanwhile, he goes out and does all these terrible things for money or for whatever reason. So we all have this yearning for loving kindness and happiness within ourselves. But for all myriad different reasons, it's blocked up. What is the spark that breaks through that? For everybody, it's going to be different when it happens and how it happens. The key is not to, at this point, to be thinking about other people, but to be working on ourselves and then being able to help other beings and offering the hand out, that we become the Buddha. That's the message here. These 6 Buddhas, they're teaching us how to become the sage, how we become the teacher for those beings and so on. So let me move on. So we go up here to this middle right here, this guy here, and he is in the animal realm. He's the Buddha in the animal realm. And these Buddhas are called sages. The sages are like these great teachers. So he has in his hands, he has a book. He has the book of knowledge. And he is bringing this book of knowledge to the animals who are suffering from ignorance. And we can teach animals how to do things. We can, as our animal instincts, we can tame our animal instincts through learning about things. Look, you know, cholera, you know, what, 200 years ago, 150 years ago, was a scourge. And what did it take to educate the people to stop using their rivers as toilets? It was education. It was somebody coming from some other place that had learned this and brought this knowledge to them and helped them. And they realized it, they did it, and they overcame that. You know, so that's one example. You know, but animals, people that live like animals, you know, can be trained, can be taught. We can learn new things, and we need to accept the hand of those that are offering the wisdom to be able to learn these things. So this is the book that is being represented by the sage in the animal realm. Now I'm going to skip the human realm and come to that last. Then we come to the jealous God realm. Now the jealous gods, if you remember, the jealous gods are in total conflict with each other, and they're trying to be in conflict with the gods, but the gods are not paying attention to them. But these beings, these jealous gods, have great power. They have great skill. They're very manipulative. Many, many, many people follow them and become the source of their power and so on. This sage, this Buddha in that realm, he's got 2 things. He's got a shield in one hand, and he's got a sword in the other hand. The shield is to offer protection from the other jealous gods who are trying to subdue that particular jealous god. The shield protects them. And the sword is to cut through the conflict, to cut through the duality, to cut through the constant pain and suffering that they are causing other beings in themselves. So this is the sage of overcoming our jealousness, our jealousy. Being able to protect ourselves and then being able to cut through the confusion, to cut through the chaos, to bring order to things, to understanding to things. So that's what he represents. And so for a moment, those jealous gods, they are able to be safe and say, oh, I recognize that I'm creating this environment for myself. And do you know, people like that? Do you know, people who have been ruthless in business and they made gazillions of dollars, but then they made their money and then they left the business, and now they say, they get married, they start having a family, and they say, now what am I going to do with all these gazillions of dollars? Maybe I'll be a philanthropist. So now they feel protected. And now they start looking at ways in which they can be a philanthropist and ways they can begin to help. And I think there's some people you can think about like that if you watch any television anytime lately and see, what some of these billionaires are doing and so on. Some billionaires are still playing the game. They're still waging the battle. They're still out there in conflict. So then we come to the God realm. So the God realms, if you remember, they are so much involved with their pleasure. They have no sense of compassion. They have no need for compassion. They're not paying any attention to the supplications of those other beings that are adoring them and so on. But then the Buddha that is in their realm is playing a musical instrument, a vina, it's called, or a guitar-like instrument, or it could be a piano, or it could be an artist who is doing paintings or something. And what this Buddha represents is the beauty that is being manifested from their suffering to learn their craft, to learn how to play the vina, to learn how to do the wonderful paintings that bring tears to your eyes when you see these paintings for yourself, or for this music, when you hear this music that is being played. And maybe sometime in your life, you've been moved to tears when you saw something like that, or you heard something like that. And it just evokes this compassion within you. Maybe you recognize that suffering that the being had, or maybe it's more transcendent than that. You don't realize that kind of suffering, but it just invokes something within you. It just pulls on your heartstrings, and you realize this compassion, this suffering, this love of what it takes to be able to play that. Tears coming to the musician's eyes, to the singer's eyes, to the painter's eyes, and it reaches the God. The God recognizes this and sees that, and for a moment is being able to be able to recognize, wow, I've been in this compassionless pleasure state, unaware of this love, of this compassion, of this devotion to this craft. And maybe I need to I can recognize that there's something else besides this selfishness that I have been practicing for my own self-aggrandizement, for my own pridefulness. So this is the Buddha, the sage of the gods. And now the last one is in the human realm. So in the human realm, oh, wait a minute, forgive me, I got mixed up. This was the sage of the of the jealous gods. He's got the sword and he's got the shield here. And over here, this is Buddha Shakyamuni. This is our Buddha, you know, who we talk about during our time, our Buddha, who has the bowl of nectar, who has the bowl of Dharma nectar, and he has the staff of the mind of the Buddha, the speech of the Buddha, and the body of the Buddha. And he represents the teachings to be able, for human beings, to be able to recognize their grasping, to recognize their attachment, to recognize their blind being able to accumulate these things and hold on to grasping their life and so on. So he's teaching the Dharma. He's teaching the causes for these attachments. He's teaching about the poisons and all the emotions. He's teaching about wisdom awareness, and he's teaching about how to cut through and to break our habitual tendencies. So this is the human, this is the human liberation, being able to recognize that. So the human is manifesting in all these 6 different realms, and these Buddhas are there to be able to lead us, to be able to show us, to be exemplars, how to be able to break through the attachments or the aversions that we have. So the way in which we do that is with our deity yoga practices. So we're learning about the academics, we're learning about the doctrine, we're learning about what the sufferings are, we're learning about what the antidotes to the suffering are and everything. But then the next step after this is to learn what it is to be these Buddhas, to be these deities that are within us, to recognize the enlightened activities of being these Buddhas. And that's the deity yoga part. That's the next part that we're working on, that we come, you know, a little bit later after Buddhism 101. Buddhism 101 is establishing, you know, the vocabulary, is establishing these images and so on, getting all these disparate pieces, and then we start putting them together and we become the embodiment of these enlightened ones, of these Buddhas ourselves. So, any questions or comments? Hi, Tom.
Hey, Lance.
So what do you think of this? Michael, what do you think? You've heard this a couple times already.
As you say, it's the psychodrama. Really, I feel like it's sort of an archetype of the way of the human experience. So, you know, we sort of weave ourselves in and out of this, of the narratives that are in that image all the time. I mean, I love it. I like imagery that inspires me, especially something as rich as that. And you know, it's full of metaphor. It's full of narrative, and it's full of our story.
Zara, what do you think?
This was like very fascinating for me personally, and I can't tell you how helpful all the graphics are. And as I listen to you talk and then can see what you're describing and talking about, I think, Michael, I think what you just said, like I actually was typing notes in my iPhone, like as Lance, as you were talking about it, that really resonated with me, like the term psychodrama or psychophysical drama, that I was like, yeah, that's it. The narrative, the storylines, and that's the struggle. That I'm like, oh God, yeah, that's my life. And how do I get out of that? So I was writing down notes in my phone, and that term is like going to be my new term, like reminding myself this is the psychophysical drama that I need to detach from. the suffering. So this was really helpful. Thank you so much. I really appreciated tonight's lesson.
Oh, you're welcome. Martin, so what do you think now?
Well, I guess I understand how this all manifests internally, and all the realms are constantly in conflict for a person. But I guess, and I don't know if this is going to be covered in a later class, but in kind of stepping back a bit, I know that reincarnation is part of Buddhism. I don't know much about kind of like the philosophical underpinning, and that was kind of what I was leading at with my question before, where I understand how it all fits internally, but if we're talking about externally and somebody is being actually reborn, not just metaphorically, how that pieces together.
Well, next week we're going to talk about karma, cause and result. So maybe that's going to be part of that answer. So what we just have been talking about here with the wheel of existence, this is called the wheel of existence, is the manifestation of that karma. So next we're going to look at what it is that put us in that manifestation. What are the causes?
Yeah, but still internally one life, right?
Yes. Yeah. That's all we got.
Well, if you're reincarnated, you would have more than one life, right?
Are you sure?
I don't know. Well, so I guess where I'm coming is, I guess, I want to understand a lot of the kind of philosophical underpinnings. You know, what are the kind of arguments in favor of a certain belief system, and kind of and how do those build on top of each other to kind of come to conclusions.
All right, we'll talk more about that as time goes on. You know, we're gonna with karma, we'll be really hitting on that. But how many changes have you gone through in your life? Or do you think that I've gone through in my life, or anybody else? How many different lives could you figuratively say that you've had during this past 30 years of your life? I imagine you're about 30 years old.
That's very kind of you.
I think you have teenagers, right?
I do, but I had them young. I mean, it's almost infinite amount of lives, because each moment, each day is an infinite amount of all that mixing together.
That's the point. And to be able to see that, what we can't see in the past, you know, we don't have to worry about that. What we can't see in the future, we don't have to worry about that. It's only this life now that we have to worry about right now.
Yeah, I get that. And I didn't want to jump the gun with reincarnation, because I figured it was coming at some point. But just trying to understand, because that is a little different than all of that being the manifestation of an internal one life.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll come back to it then. Okay.
Okay.
Good. Thank you. Tom, how about you? You've been through this a number of times. What words of wisdom do you have?
Oh, I don't know about wisdom, but something I practice every day. In the 3 lower realms and even the 3 higher ones, there is not an instant of absolute happiness. That carries a lot of weight.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is not an instant of absolute happiness. That's why we practice every day.
Mm-hmm.
Every day.
Mm-hmm. So, and you really exhibit the joyfulness of that.
Mm.
I've known you for a couple of years now, and well, maybe not a couple of years, a year. and your joyfulness, you brought that joyfulness with you, you know, and maybe you were born with that joyfulness, and maybe some of it is your past practice because you had a whole other practice before you came, you know, to Dharma Surya and so on. So, but nevertheless, the joyfulness is a huge component of this. You know, the bodhicitta. We talk about the loving kindness, the compassion, but we also talk about the joyfulness of this, being happy, being grateful for this, and the smiling heart. You know, and then our countenance becomes smiling. And if you look at, you know, many people, when they're looking to acquire a statue of a Buddha or a painting of a Buddha, they always look for the face. They always want a smiling face, you know. Is that right?
You're much too kind. You're much too kind. But you know what? It brings me joy that people are so wanting to learn, to you know, to break out of this samsara, to you know, finally say, oh, man, I'm really sick of all this. You know, there's got to be something more. There's got to be something more. And you know what? You're doing a great job opening people's eyes to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Bonnie, how about you? Bonnie, can you turn your mic on and maybe make a comment? And William, make a comment, please.
Yeah, I had never seen this wheel before, so your description of it was really interesting to see the different
It's very
sections.
dramatic, isn't it?
And yeah, it's wonderful, and your information and description of it was great. And I thank Michael for sending out the pictures that I downloaded on the computer. We can look at them again in more detail. I think in doing some of the practices, because we join you on Friday night for the deity practice, I think in some of those practices, I feel like there's a lot of joyfulness that can be felt. And maybe that's the key to it all. For me personally, I really enjoy mantras and chanting, and that just elevates me tremendously. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you. William, how about you?
Well, where can I start? I don't know. I think this is all as above, so below is one of the sayings from somebody's Kabbalah, I think. And learning a new system is, and trying to go from my old system to the new system and trying to put the two together where this fits in and where that fits in, it's extremely difficult in the little people and things that you've got on your screen there. I really am astonished with your great insights that you have into these, and I'm glad that I'm learning from you some of these insights that are that astonish me at times. So I feel kind of really, well, most of the time, extremely humbled by the by what I don't understand or what I don't know, and that I'm very grateful at the information that I'm getting. And you know, I understand about karma, I understand about reincarnation, but integrating it in with all of the stories and things that you have here is interesting. So thank you.
Well, thank you for the kind words, and you know, what I know is just a very small amount, and you know, I'm just taking it in, you know, and from my teachers and the same teachers that many other people are appreciating and so on, and from time, you know, when we talk about the lineage masters, Talopa, Naropa, Marpa, Milarepa, et cetera, and so on. So it is this continuum, and what we're all preparing ourselves for is the next life, is tomorrow, is, you know, and we become teachers, and without even trying to be. It's just the way that we hold ourselves, the way we approach life. Maybe it is our joy, maybe it's our compassion, our tolerance of other people, and so on. And these are ways that we teach, you know, without realizing it. And people pick up on that. And so the changes that we're all going through, we're going through together. And just whether one of us right now happens to be in a teaching role and the other one in a student role, you know, it flips over very quickly. You know, somebody can ask a question and all of a sudden the teacher becomes the student. So, you know, you look for that, you want that. That's the beauty of the dialogue, you know, of creating that. And these were all inspired, or these were all, you know, the system was put in place by Buddha Shakyamuni and other great beings, not just the Buddha Shakyamuni, but there were other great beings in other traditions. This isn't exclusive, but he was aware of it and built it into the system. You know, it's part of what we know to be the Dharma, what we need to as Buddhism and so on. So it's really wonderful. So thank you all very much.
One of the ways that I can see that you're one of the greatest things that I enjoy about your teaching is that when you lead us through the prayers and through the supplications, etc., that I can follow you because you go slow enough that I can read the paper in front of me. Some of these other, like the other day when Curtis was saying it, he was just a little bit faster than what you are, and I just was. I couldn't grasp everything that he was talking about, and that understanding of how the student, how the mind functions through the student to be able to teach, to get something into that mind is really great. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you. Yes, I kind of realize that, and you know, it's the way I am too. You know, when instructors go through very fast, it's like they're not taking it seriously, and it should be heartfelt. You know, every word. You know, you should know every word, and you should feel it in your heart with every word, and so on. And so thank you very much for recognizing that and practicing that way. And if you can practice that way yourself, you know, that's really great. You know, as you get more adept at it, you can do it faster by yourself, and you slip right into it because when you sit down, you're already there, you know. But in this formative stage like we're in right now, it's important to do it slowly and deliberately and so on, so everybody can follow.
One of the things is that I'm a little older and a little slower.
Maybe me too. Yes. So I want to make another point or two about generally what we've been talking about here. And the Buddha Shakyamuni, who, if you remember, was a human being, Siddhartha Gautama like us, and his life was ripe for liberation. So whatever previous lives he had and so on, we don't see under the surface, but he was at that point where he was ripe to be able to break through the remaining graspings that he had. And as a result, he was able to liberate himself and be able to see all these things. He became aware. And that's what enlightenment is, becoming aware of what all these things are, being aware of nirvana, being aware of samsara, the difference between them, being aware of bodhicitta, being aware of emptiness, all these things that we talk about, and being aware of that which we can't conceptualize. That's what we're trying to get to, you know. So we're trying to organize all this stuff that we can and know where it is so that we can leave that, if just for a moment like that, and have this moment where all of a sudden now we see the awareness of the other side that has always been there. And we just didn't see it. And then all of a sudden now you immediately come back and now everything takes on a whole new meaning, a whole way of living. So he never considered himself to be a divine person. He didn't think of a God, you know, a supreme being. This was 2,600 years ago. It was before the monolithic traditions that came out of the Judeo-Christian. So it was way before that. But he never thought of himself as being that, and none of his teachings speak to that at all. You know, he says, we don't know, because it's incomprehensible for human beings. He says, we can have this experience, we can have these realizations, you know, whether they're divine or not, what does that really mean? That's another concept. But it didn't matter. It didn't matter, because for him and for us as practitioners, we're trying to lead a life that is full of love, that is full of compassion, that is full of joy, and is full of equanimity, that we're all the same. What more would you ask of life? What more do you want? What more do you need? It may blow away the new car you got sitting out on the driveway. It may blow away the house that you want. It may blow away the beautiful partner that you have, or your children, or anything like that. It may blow all of that away. But the essence is that bodhicitta. You know? We're here in this temporary life for 50, 60, 70, 80 years, 100 years, whatever it is, a blip in time in terms of what we know, the life of this phenomenal nature to be. And how can we possibly expect to be able to know everything with our brain? But can we know this? Can we know bodhicitta? Can we recognize this? Can we realize this? And this is what the Buddha is opening up. This is the awareness. This is what he's leading us to. He says, I can't teach you what enlightenment is, but I can teach you how I experienced enlightenment, how I came to experience it. And that's what we follow. So here's a quote by Sogyal Rinpoche, who's one of my favorite teachers. He says, being a Buddha is not being some spiritual omnipotent Superman. Omnipotent means knowing everything. But it's becoming a true human being. Becoming a mensch. Becoming a Lakota. And so many other parts of civilization have names for that human being. A Nagpa in Tibetan. That's what we're trying to be. You know, all the other stuff is just fun and games. All right, so I think for tonight, that's all I got. If anybody else has any comments or questions, I'll be more than glad to talk about whatever I can. And tomorrow, Tom, we talked about doing 7:30, but William and Bonnie cannot do that early. Would you all want to do something at say 3 o'clock? That would be fine with me. Would you like to do practice tomorrow? I guess that's the fundamental question. Would you like to do it tomorrow evening? If you don't want to participate at all, let us know, and then those that want to do it, we can make a decision. So who would like to join us tomorrow, regardless of what time it is? Okay. All right. Then what time would you like to do it? Zara, what time would you like to do it?
I can do anything like after 10 o'clock to about 5. So between 10 and 5 tomorrow, I can definitely protect time to participate.
Okay. William and Bonnie, how about you?
2 o'clock?
Too.
Is 2 o'clock good for you?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Bonnie?
that works. Yes.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Then 2 o'clock.
Okay.
Okay. Michael, you think you might be able to join us, or I know you got a lot of things. You just came back from vacation. You got a lot of things to catch up with.
Yeah, I'm working tomorrow, but I can try to be as flexible as I can be, being
Okay.
my own boss on a Sunday.
Well, we're really enjoying doing the, the morning puja,
Yeah.
the Buddha Shakyamuni and the White Zambawa and the Achichoki Droma. And Martin, if you'd like to join us, you're welcome to join us. So it's the same Zoom as what we do on Thursday night. So I sent you the log on. So if you need it, I can send it to you again, but you should have that in your email.
Yeah, I have it.
Okay.
Right, I'm not sure about my schedule tomorrow with the kids and everything.
Okay.
But 2 o'clock is what you said?
Yeah, 2 o'clock we'll start, and we'll finish maybe around 3:30, 3:45 the latest, something like that. Okay.
Okay.
Invite your kids to join us.
They might, maybe eventually.
Tom's brought his kids.
Yeah. It's my daughter's birthday tomorrow, so.
Oh, that's a big day. That's a big day. Oh, well, we'll come over to your house for some cake and ice cream then.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you don't make it, we certainly understand that part. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Whenever you always are welcome to join any of these things that we do. So.
I'm getting there.
Okay, good. All right. So then the next thing is next week is we start the Bumsok. So we'll be able to do Thursday night medicine. No, we won't be able to do Thursday night because I got an errand I got to run. So next week entirely, we're going to take off. We're going to do Bumsok. So I invite everybody to be at Bumsok. It's 2 hours starting on Friday evening with an empowerment from Garchen Rinpoche. So Garchen Rinpoche, in many, many people's lives, especially in Tibet, is considered to be a living Buddha. And I have absolutely no doubt that he is. So if you want to meet virtually a living Buddha, this is Garchen Rinpoche.
What are the times?
He's 84 years old. So he's going to be giving the empowerment for this practice on Friday night. And then Saturday night at 6:30, we will continue every night till the next Friday doing this practice over and over again. and it's an exciting practice. It's very thrilling, and you'll be able to get the text off of the website, or I can email it to you. You can print it. You should print it, because it's going on a screen would not be very helpful. You need to make notes and so on like that. So it's very powerful. Even if you only can make it one time, it'll be worthwhile. If you only can make it for the empowerment on Friday night, it would be worthwhile. So whatever you can do, it will be worthwhile. These are priceless offerings by the lamas. So it's with great compassion that they offer these, and with gratitude we accept these things.
Vince, can you spell that word, Bumsa?
Bum is B-H-U-M,
Mm-hmm.
which means 100,000. And Sok, T-S-O-K, T-S-O-K. Sok means offering.
Okay, thank you.
So it's an accumulation of 100,000 recitations of the mantra. And the mantra, kind of like solidifies our mind, one-pointed mindfulness, and becomes totally transformative. Our body, our speech, and our mind all come together. So it's a very powerful practice.
And this starts next Friday.
Friday night, 6:30 is the empowerment. So everybody's going to be able to come in on Facebook Live. So we'll have the link is on the is going to be on the website. It's going to be on the flyer, which is going to direct you to our website. And from our website, you'll be able to get onto the link. There's going to be hundreds and hundreds of people on there. There's going to be people from Vietnam. There's going to be people from India, people from Malaysia, people from South America, people all around the world are going to be tuning into this. It's a very, very important practice that's done once a year. So it climaxes on the 28th of August, and that day is a full moon. So it either begins on a full moon or it ends on a full moon. Okay. All right, so let's do our dedication prayers, please. So we go to our prayer book and page 18. Dorje Chang, Talopa, Naropa, Marpa, Milarepa, Dormalor Gampopa, Pagma Drupa, and Lord Kompa. Please bestow upon us the most auspicious blessing of all the Kaju Lamas. By this virtue may I achieve the all-knowing state. May all who travel on the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death cross the ocean of samsara by defeating all enemies, confusion, the cause of suffering. Bodhicitta, the excellent and precious mind. Where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher. I pray that the Lama may have good health. I pray that the Lama may have long life. I pray that your Dharma activities spread far and wide. I pray that I may not be separated from you. As Manjushri, the warrior, realized the ultimate state, and as did Samantabhadra, I will follow in their path and fully dedicate all merit for all sentient beings. By the blessing of the Buddha who attained the three kayas, by the blessing of the truth of the unchanging Dharma as such, by the blessing of the indivisible Sangha order, may the merit I share bear fruit. By the virtues collected by myself and all beings in samsara and nirvana, and by the innate word of virtue, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious enlightenment. May the teachings of the great Trikumpa Ratnashri, who is omniscient, Lord of the Dharma, master of interdependence, continue and increase through study, practice, contemplation, and meditation until the end of samsara. Om, Ah, Hom. Om, Ah, Hom. Om, Ah, Hom. May my body, speech, and mind become inseparable with the body, speech, and mind of all the enlightened ones. Thank you all very much. I really appreciate the nice things you said, and particularly your attendance, your being here and paying attention. Thank you. Okay. Cheery, bye-bye.